So today we will be starting on with our stream. And our today's goal is to clean the entire code and create a structure. So right now I have built an WebXR app. It works on a VR headset or a AR device. But our current goal is to not further progress in the development, but rather create a structure for the entire code. Right now, what we have done is written all the code inside a single file, and the only thing that has been segregated into a different file is this MIDI data, which is just some JSON. So what we need here is to structure our entire file, structure our entire code into different files and make it manageable. So let's begin. Let's go through the code and let's figure out how we can go through that. So first we have our static variables. So these are static variables and these are dynamic variables. So, and there are some variables which are only used for UI purposes. There are two segregations in UI. One would be the container where our main game logic is. I'll say the game logic because there are two things in the UI. One where the user controls the UI, and second is where the actual XR experience. So, and then we have variables that are useful for the setup. Let's call them. We can shift them to a handler file, Three.js handler, and these things can move to Three.js handler. So to begin with, let's create a new file and call it constants for now, constants.js, and also let's run some music while we code. Now that the music is on, let's begin. Let's start with the code. So we want to export and we want to export the standard map. And the command can be shifted above. Okay, and let's go through it again and let's see what else can be exported. So we have some utility functions over here: loading nodes, play nodes. So loading nodes can be moved to helpers. So let's create helper.js, and then we can export const load MIDI export load MIDI function, and what it needs is this MIDI data. So let's open the script file and remove the import from here and add import in this file so it can load MIDI files. Another thing that I would do is move MIDI inside the MIDI folder and import it from there. So this will be MIDI slash MIDI.json. And then I can just remove these two things. And call the function over here, import nodes and standard map. So we can import standard map from the constants. And one thing that I would like to do here is, while we have it as a constant in some other file, let's put it on the caps and then import the standard map. Okay, that's done. Let's go through again and let's see what else can we move from here. So these are a few things that is playing the MIDI tones, and this is a helper function with timing from beats. So let's move it to the helper. Later on we can create two segregations. One would be a plain clean JavaScript helpers, and second would be things which include this kind of imports and dependencies. So we would rather have dependency injection while we just want to transform this data than rather importing the data over here. Or maybe we can have a helper function inside MIDI and create an index file to manage all the MIDI files, but that is something for later. But for now, let's export this, and now we can import the function from the helper. So right now we have 900 lines of code. Let's move all the buttons and the classes into some other file. So let's figure out what can we name those. Let's call them components. Components. And then inside components we can have button.js. I wrote it as a B button, but let's rename that button.js. We can move our button reference to button.js. And then export the class, and let's spell it correctly, export. Let's see if we have any dependencies. So we have 3 over here, which is a dependency. So let's Let's go and copy paste, import it inside button.js. Other than 3 we are not using anything. So let's refresh the page. Yeah, and I forgot, we need to also update the file, so let's go and do that. Button. Okay, this is the part where we are creating the button. So let's import button from the components, and we can later update this code to improve, use the library, the bacon something, digital bacon UI. Yes, so later we can use digital bacon UI for rendering the buttons, but for now I have built custom buttons which are there in the code, and today's goal is not to go and update all the components that we have, but rather shift everything into their own class files. So let's move the string container to its component, add file, string container .js. And then we can just cut again we will be needing the Three.js import, so let's import that. And export our class. I don't think we need anything else over here. Thread put offset, that's a global variable that we need. So for now we can just copy paste the thread put offset, pass the thread put offset when we are updating the space. So let's check where we are calling update space. So it has been called at a lot of places. So one thing that can be done is make the string container hold the reference of the threadboard offset, maybe, or maybe we can think about it later. Let's give it a default value for now, and then we can think about it later. also let's not forget to import the string container. So let's quickly find the reference and import string container, and it should work now. Let's check if it is showing any errors. We cannot find the helper.js, I guess, because we need to mention JS over here. This can be reason because we are not building ES modules, but rather using common JS, and it requires to, I'm guessing it requires us to write the JS extensions. Okay, so scene has to be passed in the string container. I'm guessing, yeah, we need to pass scene in the string container now, as it is not existing in the same file. So let's do that. String container, and we can pass scene, and let's reload now. So node key, we need node key. So let's export that class to node key. So I'll again create a new file for node key .js, then just copy paste the entire file over here, and we need to import as usual Three.js, and then export the file, export, and we need to go one directory up now at the root while we reference, when we are referencing the image. And do we need anything else? Let's check once. I don't think so we need anything else, so let's move ahead. So in this file we can just import our node key with the extension. Now as everything is working properly, let's move ahead to remaining classes and functions. We have a UI container, so let's create a component for UI container. Let's create a file called UI container. I don't think we will be needing those anymore, but let's keep them for now, just in case. So then we need to import button.js, and let's export our UI container. And then we need to import our UI container in the file. So let's search for UI container, import it, and yeah, that's it. Then we have again some static functions. So rather than saving the file over here, or what can be done is we can later return these files, but for now I'll just keep it there and move the save file to our helper function. So then we can do an export and save. And this can be imported from the helper files. Then we have our again another helper function which can be directly moved to helper. So let's write a comment. Browser functions. .js functions. And then we have Three.js functions. So again, fine. Let's import this function now. And we have some errors, so let's check what those errors are and fix those. variable is non-existent over here, so let's check where the variable is being referenced. Maybe inside the, let's check in which file the error is. It is in UI container. So let's go to UI container, and we have seen we should have returned the container and add it outside, but we can handle that later once we get our ThreeJS setup class file ready. So let's check where we are calling our container, and we can pass the scene. So the scene variable is passed properly now. We can reload and check what other errors do we have. So inside init we can't find variable scenes, so might have pressed S somewhere. Yeah. So yet another static reference is gone. These are some helper functions that I can move, I guess. So let's move them. So let's create a new section for gas functions. Let's quickly export them all. All are exported created now, then we can just go here and import each. Later we will create a single file for GASP and timeline management and move all this constant references for GASP in the class file, or maybe we can create a guitar fret class file and the fret animations and stuff related to the fret would be managed in that particular file. We can figure that later, but initially we need to segregate all the functions, do the basic segregation of the functions. Let's reload and see if things are working as expected. Yeah. Then we don't need all this, or maybe we do. Okay, we don't actually. Let's remove all this and this too. I guess we can also remove this too. We don't need this exactly. So the input management can be done in some other file. Debounce can be moved to the helper file. So let's move to helper and let's write that at the bottom of the file. Your leading functions, export, and import it over here. So now we are down to 600 lines of code. So now let's create a component for ThreeJS. Let's call it 3 component or 3 manager .js. And then we can have export class 3 manager and create a constructor. Then we have init to initialize the class. So what we can do is literally copy this entire thing and then later remove bits and bytes from the code which are not related to Three.js. So GSAP is not something that is part of Three.js, so let's remove that and let's check if we have copy pasted. Yeah, we have copy pasted. So we have container, so let's write it as this dot container and call the initialize function this dot init, and then create this dot scene. So we will be storing the scene inside the manager class. Then again this dot camera. So we can access all these values with the reference of tree management. Then again controls, let's assign it to this. Then this is basic flow generation code. Then we need to reference the scene with this keyword. Lights can be part of this class, and initializing beacon UI. This is something we don't want to be done here, so let's remove that. And about the group, let's check if we are still using the group. So yeah, group is being used, so we can't just really remove that like that. Let's name it this dot group. So this is the main group where all the movable elements have been kept so far. Let's move ahead. Then the button container, it's not something that should exist over here, so let's remove that. And I guess the group shouldn't be initialized over here, so let's remove that too, and this too. Strings are not something which are part of the core Three.js initialization, so let's remove that too, and this piece too, even this part, and I guess pretty much everything after that is not related to Three.js till here, so we can go ahead and clean that. So this is the part where we create the renderer. So this is related to Three.js initialization, so I'll keep it over here. And this is digital beacon UI, which is not supposed to be here, so let's remove it. And controllers are something arguably it should be here and can be moved somewhere else, so for now let's keep them here, and then we can maybe move them somewhere else later. So let's say this dot controller 1 and this dot controller 2, and for the grips we would do the same, this dot recaster. So let's add this. There is also window event, and there are few more controller events which should have been moved here, or we can keep it outside or pass it as a parameter in the constructor for initialization. So let's check it out after a while. I think these things are supposed to be written out after the initialization, and yeah, and controller events can be passed inside the constructor. So let's do that. We will be taking two params on, let's just copy paste those on select start and on select and just copy both here and here, so they are accessible over here. Then we have on window resize event, which can be moved. Moved here, so later we will move this code outside this file. That way we keep the window resizing events outside this Three.js manager. The point of this file should be just to manage ThreeJS and functions for ThreeJS. And then in this file we can have three const let's declare it on the top of the file, const three manager, and let's declare it as let, because we want to initialize it inside the init files. So ThreeJS manager is equal to new ThreeJS manager, and then we can import the file, import the component that we have created. So I am sure that all of this code is there inside the file, and we can safely remove that and safely remove this two. We need to initialize group over here, and we need to use this three manager dot scene because now it is a property of ThreeJS manager rather than an independent variable. And we need to do the same for rest of the things. So over here too, and here too. So this will be seen colon let's update all the scene references before we move ahead. We need to change a lot of stuff over here, so let's comment this part of the code for now. So we will have three manager dot renderer, and then the controllers are managed inside our ThreeJS file, including this part 2 and the raycaster too. So let's remove that, and on resize, window resize. So let's remove this part from here and keep it outside in the ThreeJS in our main script. So from 1000 lines of code we have reduced to 533 so far. This variable is not being used, so let's remove that. Let's remove this part. Actually, let's keep this part. Let's go ahead and fix all the errors in the code.